Gage burst out laughing and vigorously pressed the detonation button. Christopher lunged forward, but just as his fingers almost touched Gage, the bomb exploded with a deafening boom. A massive explosion rocked the surrounding area, causing chaos. Gage's body was torn apart. A huge shock wave radiated outward from the center of his body. Christopher, who had rushed toward Gage earlier, was thrown through the air, spitting blood. The people near the blast were also badly injured. Their bodies were mangled, and blood splattered everywhere. The explosion had thrown the banquet hall into chaos. Some guests had been seriously injured, while others had tragically lost their lives. The hall was now a pile of rubble, with cries of pain, blood, and body parts scattered about. Gage, Christopher's heart raced as he surveyed the chaotic scene. Disoriented and injured, he ran toward the blast area to find his son. His desperate search for his son proved unsuccessful, and he found only the dismembered remains of Gage. The explosion left his son unrecognizable, with only a bloody head. Gage! Gage! Christopher held his son's mutilated body and wept bitterly. He was overcome with emotion. Why? Why did you do this? Why were you so stupid? Why? He couldn't understand why. Gage had taken such a drastic step and even ended his life for revenge. Pain, regret, anger, and despair overwhelmed Christopher at that moment. His beloved son was gone, and his promising successor was dead. The entire Murray residence lay in ruins, all because of a woman from 5 years ago. Her actions had set in motion this tragic chain of events. She had committed a heinous crime. As Christopher mourned his son, a shadowy figure shot toward him. Amid the cries of pain, it went unnoticed. General Murray, watch out! Dustin, who had seen the danger, shouted a warning. Before Christopher could react, the figure struck him hard in the back. He spat out blood and was thrown several feet before he crashed to the ground. He had already been injured from the earlier explosion at close range. In addition, the shock of his son's death had weakened his defenses, leaving him vulnerable to the surprise attack. Who are you? He managed to ask, struggling to get up. The attacker had seriously wounded Christopher. He had damaged much of his circulatory system with the palm strike. Plus, his strength had been greatly reduced. Hey-ho, old friend, it's been many years. We meet again. A horse laugh filled the air. Then, a short, stout elderly man in a trench coat and clattering boots emerged from the smoke. Antonio! Christopher blinked at the newcomer, his expression darkening. So, it's you old dog. The newcomer was none other than Antonio, the head of the Bourbon family and one of Kimboku's top sword sages. Old friend, we parted many years ago, but I've never forgotten what happened. I couldn't swallow that humiliation, so today, I've come to take revenge. Antonio smiled weakly, and his eyes were icy. HMPH, you old dog. Of course, I'd recognize you. How dare you set foot in Dragonmarsh after I broke your legs 30 years ago? 30 years ago is still fresh in my memory, Antonio replied softly. I could never forget that disgrace. Today, I've come to seek revenge. He chuckled. But I'm not heartless. I won't let you suffer alone. I'll wipe out your entire family and make sure your loved ones die with you. How does that sound? Quite an unexpected twist, isn't it? Bourbon, you old dog, do you think you're strong enough? Do you have what it takes? Christopher straightened up, his eyes blazing with anger. He added, I could have taken you down 30 years ago, and I still can. Come on, old friend, cut out the theatrics. You may be able to fool others, but not me. Antonio sneered and shook his head. He continued, after all those battles, you must be full of scars. And after the recent explosion and my hard palm strike, you must be badly hurt. You can't even stand up straight, can you? If you doubt me, come and find out. Christopher motioned for Antonio to come closer, ready for a fight. Antonio eyed Christopher from head to toe, not wanting to fight him. Instead, he continued to taunt, old friend, losing your son has got to hurt. I spent 5 years training, but unfortunately, he didn't make it. So, it was you sly old dog. Christopher gritted his teeth, and his breath quickened. If you had a grudge, you should have come for me. Why my son of all people? Antonio chuckled. Attacking you head-on is too tough. That's why I had to take advantage of your weak spot. Your son, Gage, is your Achilles heel. He continued, oh, I almost forgot to mention. Gage's wife, who hanged herself in the Murray residence 5 years ago, is my daughter? What did you say? Christopher recoiled, finding it hard to believe. Surprised, huh? Antonio chuckled. To get back at you, I had my daughter get close to your son and make him fall in love. When the time was right, I set her up, laying the foundation for the feud between you and your son. A perfect plan, wouldn't you say? You heartless son of a bitch. Christopher seethed with rage. To get your revenge, you'd even sacrifice your daughter. Are you even human? What is the use of having children? In Kimboku, children would make sacrifices for their parents. My daughter willingly played her part for my revenge. It is her honor. No matter what, she did it and played her part. Antonio was indifferent. To him, greatness meant ruthlessness. The sacrifice of his daughter was a small price to pay. Screw you. You'll die for this. Christopher's eyes widened. He lunged forward and delivered a powerful strike at Antonio. Antonio's eyes narrowed, and he countered with a palm strike. The iron palms of two grandmasters collided in midair, creating a deafening blast. Furious energy poured out, and a shock wave spread from the point of impact. It knocked some unfortunate bystanders off their feet and made them cough up blood. Antonio was thrown back more than 30 feet, leaving a deep trail in the ground as he came to a stop. But Christopher only backed away 2 steps before regaining his balance. The difference between their strengths was obvious. Go to hell. Just as Christopher was about to strike again, his body trembled. He coughed up blood, and his body almost failed him. Because of his previous injuries, using his power was extremely taxing on his body. At the sight of it, Antonio couldn't help but laugh. Old friend, it looks like your time is up. He was lucky that his opponent was already wounded. Otherwise, he might not have survived this last blow. You vile scoundrel! Christopher gritted his teeth and felt his inner energy dwindle, leaving him completely powerless. Antonio had clearly provoked Christopher, baiting him into attacking and testing his limits. Right now, Christopher couldn't even counterattack anymore. Old friend, you've lost the game. Today is the day you die. Antonio grinned. But before you die, I'm going to make you watch as I slaughter your family. With that, he snapped his fingers. In the next moment, numerous assassins emerged from underground. These were the elite warriors of the Bourbon family, honed through rigorous training. They were not only talented, but also masters in the art of assassination. As they appeared, they moved like ghosts. It was nearly impossible to defend against them. Stop them! Christopher roared. The Murray family's black-clad assassins immediately unsheathed their swords and began their counterattack. Soon, the two sides were plunged into an all-out battle. Despite their smaller numbers, the black-clad assassins were more skilled. They could handle multiple opponents effortlessly. However, the Kimbokuan assassins kept appearing as quickly as they were defeated. For a moment, both sides found themselves in a stalemate. Stop! Everyone stop! Or else I'll kill her! Someone yelled. Diego walked out of the crowd with Sheila, holding a knife to her neck. Sheila! Christopher's expression shifted when he saw them. The Murray family members were also shocked and furious as they cursed. The explosion earlier had left the banquet hall in ruins. With everything plunged into chaos, Diego's movements had gone unnoticed. Nobody expected him to hide among the guests and take Sheila hostage without detection. Now, they couldn't retaliate even if they wanted to without hurting the innocent. Diego Bourbon, you son of a bitch! How dare you take my daughter hostage? Caden was furious. Previously, they had even agreed to take on Dustin together. He couldn't believe they had become enemies just like that. Caden, stop with the act. You Murrays are at the end of the line. We Bourbons are in charge now. Diego sneered. This is an order. Put down your weapons immediately, or she dies. As he spoke, he lifted the blade slightly. It pierced through Sheila's skin, and a thin line of blood trickled down her fair neck. As expected of my grandson. Well done. Antonio burst into laughter again. Charging forcefully would result in a significant loss of their honed warriors, even if they emerged victorious. With Diego holding a hostage, they could secure victory without resorting to combat. Why are you doing this? Aren't you Jaden's friend? Sheila was in disbelief. Friend. Diego laughed mockingly. Sheila, are you an idiot? I'm from Kimboku, and you people are from Dragonmarsh. How could we be friends? Then what about last night? Sheila was shocked. Diego laughed. Sheila, oh, Sheila, can't you tell? I kidnapped you yesterday to threaten Dustin. Then, he sneered. I just never expected Jaden to speak up for me and slander Dustin. Even when the truth was revealed, I can only say that you Dragon Marsh people are hopeless. You're always fighting among yourselves. But it was precisely because of it that I was given an opportunity. Sheila felt like she was struck by lightning with those words. She stood there in shock. What did you say? Sheila was dumbfounded and in disbelief. You kidnapped me. You guys have been lying to me? That's right. We did lie to you. Diego admitted to it plainly. However, you can only blame yourself for being a fool. You can't tell right from wrong at all. All it took was a few words to convince you. You're the biggest idiot ever. So why misunderstood Dustin? I was the one who hurt him without knowing the truth. Sheila was trembling as tears streamed down her face. A wave of regret washed over her. She never expected the truth to turn out that way. She thought her cousin wouldn't deceive her. She thought her friends would never lie to her. She thought Dustin had really been scheming against her. But Diego's words had made her realize that everything she had known was a lie. Jaden had deceived her. Her good friends had lied to her. And Dustin had been the only one helping and saving her. Yet, she wasn't only ungrateful. She even kicked him out of the house. Because of a few ridiculous remarks. She had deeply hurt the person who truly cared about her. What had she done? Why was she such a fool? Why? Why did you lie to me? Sheila turned her attention to Evan, Vivian, and the rest of the group. She looked at them in doubt and confusion, unable to understand why her friends would lie to her. When Evans and Vivian's group met Sheila's gaze, they lowered their heads in silence. They didn't expect Diego to openly challenge the Murrays and expose them, either. Dustin, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know things would turn out this way. Tears streamed uncontrollably down her face as Sheila gazed at Dustin among the crowd. She was overwhelmed with shame, regret, and sorrow. Still, she only had herself to blame. She had always despised people who repaid kindness with enmity, yet she had become one of them. Miss Sheila, this is not the time to discuss these things. You should ensure your safety first. Dustin shook his head slightly. He didn't harbor any resentment toward her, but they could never go back to being friends. Some things were just irreparable. Dustin. Sheila wanted to explain, but she didn't know where to start. She could sense a shift in Dustin's gaze. It had grown distant and devoid of its former warmth. Enough with your chattering. Order your men to disarm. Otherwise, I'll kill her. Diego was getting impatient and pressed the knife deeper against her skin. Blood dripped continuously onto the ground as Sheila's wound grew bigger. It was a horrifying sight. Stop it. I'm warning you not to try anything. If anything happens to my daughter, I will crush you to death. Caden roared in anger. She's in my hands now. I call the shots here. I'm going to count to 3. Lay down your weapons, or I'll cut off her arm first. Diego threatened. Bourbon, you old dog. If your grandson hurts my granddaughter, even if I lose my life in the will, make sure to kill him. Christopher bellowed sternly. Process, old friend. You might want to take care of yourself first, Antonio said mockingly. Although Christopher was heavily injured, he didn't dare underestimate him. That was why he was on constant alert to prevent him from attempting something. 3. Diego started the countdown. You son of a bitch. Don't you dare. Caden screamed in anger. 2. Diego didn't seem afraid. Caden, untie me from the dragon rope. I can save your daughter. Dustin suddenly spoke. He had been bound by the dragon rope and was rendered immobile. Unless he activated his secret technique, he couldn't break free. You. What makes you think you can save her? Caden frowned. Diego had numerous elite assassins by his side. Even the Murray's most formidable kill teams struggled to make a move. Although Dustin was skilled, it was impossible for him to eliminate everyone in a matter of seconds. Cut the crap. If you want to save your daughter, then help me right now. Dustin urged. I'll help. Lily reacted first and hurried over to untie him from the dragon rope. Dustin was tightly bound, and brute force wasn't going to help. Lily could only unravel him loop by loop. 1. Right then, Diego had counted down to the final number and was grinning widely. Since you won't drop your weapons, don't blame me for being ruthless. With that, he raised the knife in his hands, about to slash Sheila's arm. "Stop!" Enduring the pain, Caden roared and rushed forward, but he was swiftly restrained by the Kimbokuin assassins. At that critical moment, a silver needle shot out with a sharp whistle, precisely hitting Diego's sword.